Hey, my name's Stu, and I've run a board game cafe for 8 years. People ask me crazy questions, and here I answer them. Brah, what's your most complex game, brah? The easiest answer for what's the most complex game? TI4 is a very long game. It is complex. However, there is a somewhat neat, somewhat messy, depending upon how many times you've played. I feel like the parts of the game emerge or connect very simply. So while this is big and maybe a little confusing, I don't think it's very complex because the systems are not very far away from each other and they connect rather easily. So Twilight Imperium is not the most complex game in the shop. Now, there's no way you can talk about TI4 without its Euro game brother, Eclipse. Now, I absolutely have fallen in love with Eclipse, but I really like Eclipse because it's very simple to understand. Eclipse has the discs, and while I actually think this is easier to understand, I think it's more complex because of the connection of all the different three resources. In Eclipse, you really have to manage your discs, and this is why, again, Eclipse isn't really the most complex game. And now this next game could definitely be the most complex game, easy for most people, and this one does hurt my brain a little bit. Gaia Project, if you don't know, is the big brother to Terra Mystica. Now this game definitely is complex. To me, those other games are just bigger, and the bigness makes things seem complex. But Gaia Project, 123,000% is a complex game. You have tracks, you have bowls of magic, space magic. You have to move and build in a certain type of pattern, which is complex. So this is definitely in the running for the most complex game in the shop. This is Brass. This for a long time was the #1 game of all time in board game land. And I find this game terribly difficult to teach because there are so few rules. And the rules that do exist are very sharp. If it's in your network, I'm looking at you, Mr. Kirk, right? So Brass is quite complex because you have to pick the systems that you want to play with, and they do connect to the board, and the systems continually connect to different parts of the board as the board is built up. Brass is complex, but I don't think it's as complex as Gaia Project. I have a hard time teaching both of these games because of their complexity, and there is not a lot of things stated on the board. Talking about things not clearly stated on the board, there is no iconography on the hexagons in Clash of Cultures. This is horrible. So Clash of Cultures is complex, 100%. Right? It has something like 44 different technologies that you already have to understand before you play the game. And every time you play the game, you get a new culture, and you figure out how that culture works. At the same time, but you have to keep your eyes up on what other people are doing, and maybe you want to wheel and deal. Clash of Cultures is definitely in the more complex region. Is this more complex than Gaia Project? Maybe. Keeping with the theme of fighting, there are few bigger fighting games than Star Wars Rebellion. Jordy here, I realize that Star Wars Rebellion can play up to 4, but I've never played with 4, and I've never heard anyone say that it's good with 4. So that's why for the rest of this video, I just call it a 2-player game, because that's the way that I play it. Thank you very much. This may be more complex than Gaia Project. 6 decks of cards to pick from. You have your own secret missions, which you cannot ask anyone about because then they're no longer secret anymore. You have to understand how everything works before you start the game. You have to know how your leaders work, what your leaders do, and what that really means beginning, mid, and end game. This is a minimum of a 3-hour to 6-hour 2-player game. It's so easy to mess up, and it may be more complex than Gaia Project. We'll see. Keep it in space. This is one of the newer games that's been into the shop, Andromeda's Edge. I really like it. However, I think it's boring as paint. That being said, it is not very complex, but it is all big. It is a big, big game. And big games have a tendency to appearing to be complex. I think this game is actually quite simple to teach Now, how you win, I've never won, but the system or the complexity, I think, is rather low. But I don't think that Andromeda's Edge is as complex as Brass, Gaia Project, Clash of Cultures. It isn't hard to play, but is complex with all of his systems, is without a doubt any game in the Nemesis family, system, series, whatever. This rulebook is hot trash. I have bought every version of Nemesis to date. They're all hot trash. I don't know who they hired to write the rulebook, but it's horrible. Also, there are so many decks of cards. I don't know how many, but there's no logical place to put them. There is no real step-by-step what you do and how things work. It's just all in the rulebook. And this game is hard to follow because there are so many systems, and how they wrap in on each other, how those systems connect, makes this game difficult to play the first time. Now, usually when people play the Nemesis games, there's always one person, usually me or another dude, that's like, hey man, this is gonna be so awesome, I've already played it, I can just walk you through it, no problem. That's great, that's great. Having that person is great. Having that game sommelier, having that game master, that guy is great. But Nemesis, from opening the rule book, to learning it, to setting it up, to being able to explain it clearly, and how fire and reactions and how all that stuff works and which cards you flip over and then the computers and all this, it is not easily understandable. But I don't think that this is more complex than Brass or Gaia Project. All right, so we're down to our Brass, Star Wars Rebellion, and Gaia Project. In the poll below, go ahead and tell me which one of these you think is the most complex, and we'll see what you guys all think. So for me, there's one more game that I'm holding back. In it to win it, go small, go innovation. I will often pick this game up and say this is the most complex game in the shop, because the systems that you choose, and that's a big difference. The other games, you're working within confined systems, but in innovation, you build your system. It's a tableau building game, so you build whatever is gonna work or not work. While in Gaia Project, you sometimes feel like you're fighting against the system or trying to get the system to do what you want it to do, but in innovation, you built that. It's yours. And this is why I think that this is the most complex game in the shop, because the system that you build is broken or not broke. I think I'm just gonna give it to Gaia Project. I think this is the most complex game in the shop to learn, right? I think this is very hard to learn, but once you've learned it once, I think it's very simple. And so therefore, most complex game in the shop is Star Wars Rebellion, because no one can help you learn this game besides you. You can't show anybody your cards, you can't ask for help, you can't even really understand the consequences of your actions. While in Gaia Project, you totally understand the consequences of your actions. In Star Wars Rebellion, everything is on a timer. 3 turns, 6 turns, 5 turns. And how that really looks in the future is so difficult to understand. While in Brass, the world in the future is very simple to understand. And this is why I do not say Brass is the most complex game in the shop. I think from learning a game to playing a game, Star Wars Rebellion is the most complex, because the systems are difficult to understand from beginning to end. And when you finish that first game, 3, 6 hours, however long it takes you, one of two things happens. One, you go, that was the best game I've ever played. That's everything I want in Star Wars. Let's do it again. And the second thing that may go through your mind when you finish this game is, let's burn it. That was a giant mess of spaghetti that never fit. And that is the con of Star Wars Rebellion, is that there's so many systems. And even with the expansion now, they changed the fighting system, which I think is better, but it's another system that works completely differently. And the ships that are in the battle now mean more, but that's another level of complexity. Suddenly you want to build U-Wings. So Star Wars Rebellion, for me, teaching playing the whole kit and caboodle, this is the most complex game to understand and to play. And sadly, it's only a 2-player game. Innovation, I only like to play as a 2-player game, is much simpler to teach the system. However, making the system makes it more complex. All right, so let me know what you think the most complex game is. I like to play games where we have more interaction, and usually with these more complex games, you don't have a lot of interaction, and that really pushes me away from these more complex games. So that's why I have this nice different cornucopia: Star Wars Rebellion, Gaia Project Brass, and Innovation in this video, so you can see all different types of complexity. Anyway, thank you so much. Let me know what your most complex game is in the links below, and if any of these seem interesting, go ahead and stop in the Game Tree if you're in Northern Thailand, and I'll see you at the table. If any of those games caught your eye, there are affiliate links down below, and it really helps support the game shop and pick up what you like.